Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Voice of Philosophy. Thank you for being here. These days, the people of Iran are standing in the streets. They're facing bullets with their own bodies. They're resisting one of the most brutal repression machines in the world. And yet, the silence of some so-called defenders of morality and justice is more painful than any insult. This silence does not come from ignorance. It does not come from lack of information. It comes from a way of thinking, a mindset that turns human beings into tools and turns blood into the side cost of an ideological project. In moments like this, returning to the moral philosophy of Immanuel Kant is not just an academic exercise. It is a moral and historical necessity. Despite what some people claim, Kant's moral philosophy is not outdated. It is not irrelevant. Yes, today many people follow consequentialist and utilitarian ethics systems that judge morality based on outcomes. But Kantian ethics remains one of the strongest and most human-centered moral frameworks we have. At the heart of Kant's philosophy is one simple idea: human dignity. From Kant's point of view, every human being has intrinsic value, a value that cannot be priced, a value that cannot be traded, a value that cannot be sacrificed. Kant expressed this in his famous moral principle. He said, "Treat every human being as an end in themselves, never merely as a means." In simple words, people are not tools. People are not instruments. People are not expendable. No human being should ever be used to serve someone else's political goal. Human beings are not fuel for political projects. They're not ladders for political movements to climb. They're not stepping stones for ideology. This is as clear as it gets. Here Kant draws a moral red line. No goal, even if it looks great, historic, sacred, or revolutionary, has the right to turn human beings into tools. No ideal has the right to be built on the ruins of people's lives. No political project has the right to reduce thousands of lives to what it calls a necessary cost. In Kant's ethics, human beings are not tools of history. They are not chess pieces of politics. They are not sacrifices demanded by ideology. Human beings are ends in themselves. And right here we can clearly see the difference between morality and immorality. If this still sounds abstract, let me give you a real example. Today, the silence of a segment of the global left in face of Iran's revolution is one of the clearest examples of moral failure. Unfortunately, part of the left, not only in Iran but around the world, has either ignored the Iranian uprising or deliberately downplayed it. Let me be clear, I'm talking about part of the left, not all of it. I'm talking about a specific political current. From bloggers and podcasters to political commentators and major media outlets. In the early days, they said nothing at all. When silence was no longer possible, they reduced the revolution to an economic protest. While in reality, Iran is collapsing on every level: political, social, cultural, and moral, not just economically. Then, even though people in the streets were openly calling for a political alternative, these commentators claimed that no alternative exists. And now, while the regime is killing protesters with military weapons, many of these same voices have gone silent again. A silence that is deeply disturbing. A silence that stands next to the oppressor. How is this possible? How can people who lecture others about morality every day stay silent in the face of such brutality? Let me explain one of the main reasons. It is something I call ideological obsession and the reduction of human beings to tools. Over the past years, a large part of the global left has developed an obsession with Gaza, or as they call it, the Palestinian cause. They have defined their global mission as fighting Israel and defending Palestine. If you talk to them about Ukraine, Sudan, or the persecution of Chinese Muslims, they are barely moved. But the moment you mention Palestine, they become furious, as if you attack their most sacred belief. These people come from many backgrounds: Muslim communities in Europe, members of LGBT community, environmental activists, and many others who see themselves as part of the axis of resistance. But most of them do their political activism while sitting comfortably on their couches. They argue passionately with friends. They post brave hashtags online. And at best, they attend safe weekend demonstrations in Europe with music, socializing, and entertainment. But deep down, they know this is not enough. They need a real force, a force that actually attacks Israel, a force that launches military operations, a force that spends millions on propaganda, a force that funds proxy militias. If that force collapses, who will fight Israel? Most of these people are not willing to pay the real cost themselves. Ask them if they are willing to donate half their income to Hamas or Gaza. Almost certainly they will say no. Ask them if they are willing to go fight the Israel army face to face. They will refuse. So they support a system that does it for them. And that system is the Islamic Republic. But at what cost? At the cost of poverty, repression, war, and death for millions of Iranians who are forced to pay for the Palestinian cause. This is exactly what Kant warned us about. Here people are being turned into tools. A nation is being used as a means to an end. The people of Iran are paying for someone else's ideology. For this segment of the global left, the Islamic Republic has become a tool of proxy war, a tool of propaganda, a tool of regional power. And where are the Iranian people in this equation? They are the collateral damage. Their lives, their freedom, their security, their future, their bodies, their minds, their existence, all reduced to raw material for an ideological project. From Kant's perspective, this is one of the most immoral positions imaginable, pursuing a goal by sacrificing other human beings, making others pay the price for a cause you refuse to pay for yourself. We must also talk about something called narrative building and moral blindness. How can people see such violence in Iran and remain silent? Because we do not experience the world directly. We experience it through stories. We live inside narratives. We think in concepts, not raw reality. Once a narrative becomes fixed in the mind tries to force reality to fit the story. When people define Israel as absolute evil, then any force that fights Israel automatically becomes good in their eyes. So they do not want that force to fall, even if it's a dictatorship, even if it kills, even if it holds an entire nation hostage. In their mental story, the world is divided into two camps, the camp of absolute good and the camp of absolute evil. And when someone believes they stand in the camp of absolute good, they stop judging themselves morally. Their critical thinking shuts down. In this condition, they can watch a nation face bullets with bare chests and still stay silent. Because the story created in their mind does not let them to see oppression. Because their image of a greater enemy justifies every crime committed by their own side. And the most dangerous moral position is to believe you belong to the camp of absolute righteousness. Today, Kant's ethics is more necessary than ever. In a world where human beings are turned into tools of political projects, where human life is reduced to numbers and statistics, we must remember this simple truth. No goal is more sacred than human dignity. Anyone who claims to defend Palestine must understand this. If your political cause is paid with the suffering of the Iranian people, it is immoral and unjust. It is the height of injustice to build political ideals on the grave of the Iranian people. If someone believes global justice requires the sacrifice of the Iranian people, then they have already chosen the side of injustice and cruelty. And anyone who remains silent about what is happening in Iran can no longer claim to stand for morality. This silence is not neutrality. It is not caution. It is not complexity. This silence is injustice. It is unfair. It is immoral. And it is deeply disturbing. Take care of yourselves, and let us hope for brighter days for Iranian people.